She stood there, her eyes fixed on him. He didn't look her way. His gaze stayed on the entrance as he made his way inside. Amara turned to Momo and asked her who the guy was, saying he was really handsome and that she could tell he was from a rich or powerful background. Momo looked at her, and it clicked to her that Amara had truly lost her memory. The fact that she couldn't even recognize Liwei, even when he was right in front of her, made it clear she told her that his name was Liwei, and that he was the heir and president of one of the most powerful corporate groups in China, East Gate Group. Amara's eyes widened as she asked if they also owned the university they were attending, and Momo nodded, telling her that they did, and went on to share more about him. Amara nodded and said she could already tell when she saw him that he looked every bit like someone born into privilege. She told Momo that they should go in, and they both made their way inside. Liwei sat at the top table, his eyes scanning the room, searching for her. He couldn't wait to see her even if it was just from a distance. Finally, she walked in with Momo, and he watched her, taking in every part of her. His heart ached at the sight of her. The thought that she seemed so close yet so far tore him apart. He watched her walk to the front and sit among the other presenters, his eyes never leaving her. Amara sat there, her hands trembling slightly as she thought about her presentation. She took a deep breath, telling herself she was going to do a great job. She lifted her head, and her eyes locked with Liwei, who was staring straight at her. She quickly looked away, wondering why someone like him would be looking at her like that. Slowly, she looked back again, and he was still staring. She looked away quickly, thinking maybe he was crazy. A gasp escaped her as she wondered if perhaps he liked her. She quickly dismissed the thought, telling herself that someone of his status couldn't possibly look at a mere university student like her. It was impossible. Liwei sat there, his eyes fixed on Amara. Just looking at her, even from afar, calmed him. Kai walked over and sat beside him. Noticing how deeply he was staring, he leaned closer and whispered that he had warned him he wouldn't be able to stay away from her, and that now he looked completely mesmerized. He added that Amara didn't remember him, and that if he kept looking at her like that, it would creep her out, saying that instead of looking like a man in love, he looked like one of those old men who preyed on young girls, and that she might think he wanted to be her sugar daddy. Liwei turned to him, his face unreadable, as he asked if he was there to annoy him or attend the event. Kai laughed, saying he was there to do both. Finally, the event began, and the MC walked to the stage, announcing that it was a fundraiser for children with cancer, and that Eastgate University was one of the best in the world, producing talented doctors and medical practitioners who continued to save lives across the globe. She stated that opening the ceremony would be one of the medical students from Eastgate University who would be presenting her research connected to helping those affected by cancer. Everyone clapped as Amara rose to her feet and made her way to the podium, her hands trembling slightly. The entire room went silent as all eyes turned to her, waiting for her to speak. The grand hall glowed with soft golden lights, cameras flashing as guests settled into their seats, the air filled with an elegant kind of anticipation. At the center of the stage stood Amara, calm and poised, her dress falling gracefully against the light. The screen behind her displayed the title of her research, Early Cancer Detection Through Protein Marker Analysis. Her eyes swept over the crowd once, steady and unshaken, and somewhere among the many faces sat Liwei, his gaze fixed entirely on her. She began to speak, her voice clear and steady, telling them that she was not standing there only as a researcher, but as someone who had seen what cancer does when it takes hold of a loved one. She said she had seen her mother die, that she had watched her fade slowly while everyone around her searched for miracles that came too late. Her words carried pain, but not weakness. It was the quiet kind of pain that built walls and taught one how to keep walking. She went on, explaining how that loss had shaped her, how it had made her want to understand what no one around her could explain, that it made her promise herself that no one else should have to watch someone they love slip away without a chance to fight back. Liwei watched her closely, every word piercing deeper, because even without her memories, he could see she was stronger than before. Her tone shifted, her passion rising as she told them that her research focused on early protein markers in the bloodstream, those silent signals that appear before cancer even has a name. She said that if they could detect those signals early, they could rewrite fate. They could give people time. The crowd sat in complete silence, drawn in by her conviction. She spoke again, softer now, saying that research like this doesn't grow on knowledge alone. It needs support, belief, and compassion. Every contribution, she said, brings them closer to affordable, accessible detection for everyone, especially those who are too often forgotten. For a moment she looked down, then lifted her gaze to the crowd once more, saying she believed there would come a day when no one would have to lose someone too soon. She said she believed in that future, and she hoped they would believe in it with her. The applause came like a wave, echoing through the hall, lights flashing, voices rising. Amara stepped back from the podium, her expression calm but her heart racing. As she turned slightly, her eyes met Liwei's in the crowd, and for a moment the world stilled. Something familiar flickered within her, faint and fragile, like a shadow of a memory she couldn't name, and as Liwei sat there watching her, pride and ache warred within his chest. The woman before him wasn't the fragile soul he once protected. She was fire reborn from ashes, and even if she no longer remembered his face, she had become everything he always knew she could be. His eyes followed her as she sat down, noticing how different she seemed, how confident she was, how outspoken she had become. Amara smiled at Momo, who gestured proudly that she had done well. Her eyes lingered on Liwei again, who was still looking at her. This time she didn't look away. She held his gaze, the air between them charged with something she couldn't explain, a familiarity she couldn't wrap her mind around. Then the sound of heels echoed through the hall as Yan walked in, her presence slicing through the moment. She took a seat beside Liwei, and his expression changed instantly as he glanced at her, his voice low but sharp as he asked what she was doing there and if his warning had not been enough. Yan leaned in, her tone cold and certain, telling him that, like she said before, they were married, and it was time they started acting like it. Amara, still watching from the stage, felt her heart sink. The faint smile faded from her lips as realization struck. He had someone. She chuckled softly to herself, embarrassed that she had even entertained the thought that a man like him could ever look at her that way. She quickly stood up and walked out of the hall, her chest tight, trying to shake off the strange feeling she couldn't name. Liwei watched her leave, his heart twisting painfully. Yan reached out to take his hand, but he yanked it away, his eyes still following the direction Amara had gone. Without another word, he stood and rushed out after her, leaving Yan sitting there, her composure cracking as anger and humiliation burned within her. Kai, who had been watching from nearby, leaned toward her with a faint smirk, telling her she was only torturing herself by following Liwei around, and that no matter what she did, the woman he loved would always be Amara. Amara stood in the bathroom, her reflection still trembling beneath the golden light as she drew in a long, steady breath. Her mind lingered on the familiar feeling that washed over her when she had looked at Liwei. The same strange pulse that stirred whenever the faceless man from her fragmented memories appeared. She thought maybe, just maybe, it could be him. A quiet laugh escaped her lips as she shook her head, dismissing the thought. It was impossible, she told herself. How could she possibly have a connection to someone like him? Still, the idea wouldn't leave. Maybe they had crossed paths before, but even then, it couldn't be what she was thinking. The sound of the door opening pulled her from her thoughts. Footsteps echoed softly across the marble floor, confident, deliberate, the click of heels growing closer. Amara turned, her brows slightly furrowed, and saw the same woman who had been sitting beside Liwei. She straightened, her tone polite yet firm, as she asked if the woman needed something, if she could help in any way. Yan stood in silence for a moment, her eyes scanning Amara from head to toe, her expression sharp and unreadable. Amara repeated her question, and this time Yan's lips curved slightly as she said that she regretted giving away the antidote. Confusion crossed Amara's face. She asked her what she was talking about, her tone cautious. Then, shaking her head, she said if Yan didn't need any help, she would be leaving. But before she could take a step, Yan's hand shot out and grabbed her wrist tightly. Amara froze for a second, then pulled her hand free, her gaze turning cold. She stepped forward, the distance between them closing as she told Yan she didn't know who she was or what she wanted, but she wouldn't tolerate her trying to intimidate her. Yan laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. She leaned in slightly, her voice low as she said that it seemed Amara had become fearless. Her eyes darkened as she added that Liwei was her husband, and whatever thoughts Amara had about him, she should forget them entirely, because she had seen the way he looked at her. A faint trace of amusement flickered in Amara's eyes. She tilted her head, her tone cutting yet calm, as she said that perhaps Yan should focus on keeping her husband under control. She told her that she seemed like a smart woman, but clearly not smart enough if she still blamed other women for what men did. That it was pathetic. Yan's face twisted with rage as she raised her hand to slap her, but Amara caught her wrist mid-air, her grip unyielding. She stepped closer, their faces inches apart, her voice steady as she told her that she wasn't one of those girls she could bully, and she shouldn't even try it with her. Then she pushed Yan back, hard enough to make her lose her balance, and without another glance, Amara walked out. Yan straightened slowly, fury burning in her chest. She couldn't believe what had just happened, that Amara, of all people, had stood up to her, had threatened her. Meanwhile, Amara made her way back toward the main hall. Her heart was still racing, but her steps were sure. As she turned the corner, she collided into someone, murmuring an apology as she looked up, and froze. Liwei stood before her, tall and composed, his gaze locked on hers. The noise of the hall seemed to fade away, the world narrowing until it was only the two of them. Amara felt it again. That same pull, deep and heavy, drawing her toward him in a way she couldn't explain. And for a fleeting second, something inside her whispered that this wasn't the first time she had felt that way.